Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This podcast is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Welcome to today's episode, where we're joined by Adam Zuckerman, founder of Buried in Work, a comprehensive platform designed to streamline and simplify end-of-life planning. After managing his father's affairs during a challenging illness, Adam was inspired to create resources that aid individuals and families in preparing for life's hardest moments. Today, we're going to delve into how his innovative tools and guides can support those dealing with complex estate and financial planning issues, especially during and in the wake of divorce. And I'm super happy to have you here, man, because I was a guest on your show, which is awesome. So we're going to plug that here as well. So people that haven't had a chance to listen to Adam's show, I'm going to make sure we get all the show links and everything else so they can hear your wonderful voice, share all about all things estate planning. But man, good to see you again. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, great to be here, Jamie. Thanks for having.
100%, man. So let's just kick it off, right? So we had a chance to talk on your show about a little bit about the work that we do and helping people navigate some of the financial nuances of a divorce. One of the things that I'm passionate about and have been for many, many years is, and even though it's very boring to some folks, is the estate planning, right? Mm-hmm. Estate planning that goes into not only for those that aren't going through a divorce, everybody needs to have an estate plan, right? Who's going to take care of your stuff after you pass away? And especially if you have kids, how are you going to make sure they're taken care of if something were to happen to you? But we see this all the time in the middle of people going through a divorce or they finalize their divorce and they don't have any of these things in place. So, I think this is going to be a great message for those people that are out there that are in that situation to hear from you today. But why don't you kick it off, man? Let us learn more about who you are and kind of how you got into this realm.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. And it's funny when you say you need an estate plan, you don't need an estate plan. Everybody has an estate plan. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the largest misconceptions in the country is that people think, oh, I don't need one. I don't have a lot of assets. I don't need an estate plan. But the reality is that regardless of whether you create a will or a trust or advanced directives or anything, in between in this world of estate planning and end of life tasks, you have an estate plan because if you don't take action yourself, the state creates one for you. So if you don't want the state to dictate what happens to your stuff and who gets it, you should actually take some action.
By default.
Yep, by default. I've got a weird background. I'm an attorney. I have an MBA. I've worked in finance at a hedge fund and grew to $1.2 billion while I was there. I was Discovery Channel's parent company's entrepreneur and futurist at one point in time, which meant I was investing in startups and traveling around the world, teaching people about technology. I was selling nuclear power plants to prime ministers at one point in the career. And I did not expect that I would be running a company that is now being called the most comprehensive estate planning and end-of-life resource in the country. Mm-hmm. But it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, which is wonderful. And how I got here is a very strange story. So my father was at my house and we were working on a project in the basement. He walks up the stairs and he goes, Adam, I'm tired. And when he says he's tired, it's different than when we say it. When you say it or I say it, we take a nap, we drink some coffee, we push through. When he says it, he goes to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. And the reason why is 6.5 years prior to when he told me that, he was diagnosed with leukemia for the first time. So I actually donated bone marrow to him. I oftentimes teased him after that he just kept me around for spare parts. It's kind of the relationship that we had. And he goes to the doctor after telling me that he has tests on a Tuesday, checks in on Thursday, and he dies 12 days later. Super quick. Yeah, heavy. But in hindsight, 2020, it actually happened in a really nice way. We were able to fly relatives in that needed to see him or wanted to see him. He was with it. We could say goodbye. And so many people just don't have that opportunity. We were able to get 6.5 years extra time because Hopkins was so good at what they do. And he got to meet my sister's kids who now have memories of him as they've grown up. They're teenagers now. Like if it had to happen, it happened in a nice way, all things considered, but F cancer. So I was named executor on the will because I'm an attorney. And that's who my parents chose. My mom's still around. And I started taking really diligent notes of every single thing that I did. On this date at this time, I called this person. I followed up with this template. Here's the status of the account, XYZ. So like when somebody's getting a divorce, you have to do the inventory, the marshaling of the assets, right? Which you help so many of your clients with. Mm-hmm. And when I met with my mom's financial advisor to show her what I had put together and where we were in the process, at the end of the conversation, She said, Adam, this is the most comprehensive transition I've ever seen. And the devil on my shoulder, we're the same age. We grew up watching TV, give or take a few years. I've got more gray hair than you do. But I went gray at 18. Devil pops up on my shoulder. Can I curse? Am I allowed to curse on your show? I don't know.
100%.
Okay. Adam, she's full of shit. She knows that you have financial power of attorney for your mom. She just doesn't want you to move your mom's money to another professional. Mm-hmm. Angel pops up on my other shoulder. Adam, it's pretty organized. Maybe she's actually telling you the truth. Think about it. And that's what I did. I thought about it. I showed some friends what I had put together. I showed some people that were my mom's age what I had put together. And every single person said, you know how to build a website. Build a website, share a few notes, share a few checklists, just help a few people out and be done with it. And that's literally what I thought I was doing when I started Buried in Work. I came up with a punny name because no one's going to find like the Adam Zuckerman estate planning blog. So Buried in Work, pun. I made a silly logo. It's actually a casket if you look at it. So the B and the buried is somebody's head. And I posted to Nextdoor, LinkedIn, Facebook that I had created this website, and I hope that people find it valuable. And I was not prepared for what happened next. In 1 week, we had over 10,000 visitors to the website.
Okay. Good job.
Yep. My inbox filled up with messages of thank you for doing this. It's a great memory of your dad. He'd be very proud of you, which means a lot to hear that. It's emotional.
Yeah.
But then the messages started shifting to, this is a great checklist that tells me what to do, but I want someone to help me do it. And it's grown since then. We now have 50 plus information hubs, 15 guides, 20 plus directories, 100 plus checklists, 2,000 plus articles, literally down to the details of, if you need to close an account with Amazon, here's the customer service, account and who you need to email. And here are templates you can buy or utilize. Sometimes they're free, sometimes they're for purchase, depending on the type, to reach out to them. We have 2 card games, Nothing Left Unsaid and One More Story, that were developed literally with game designers. So when you physically feel them, the touch and feel of the cards are matte linen feel so people with dexterity issues can hold them. One More Story is about capturing stories, 6 categories, 126 questions. Nothing Left Unsaid is the quick version of what we have called the Clear Kit. And I'll talk a little bit about that. That says, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Identifying your estate information. And a podcast like you mentioned earlier, how we met. And now I'm doing it full time. So that's the story of how we got to where we are. And things are oddly fantastic. We really enjoy helping people. So it's nice to be doing what we're doing.
And it's kind of like the work we do on the divorce side, right? Like it's almost, everybody's going to pass away. I mean, we all have, limited time on this planet. And like you said, everybody's going to need this type of service, whether by design or by default, they're going to put it in place. But, it's these morbid things that people don't want to talk about, but they absolutely have to. And unfortunately, 50% of the people we know are going to go through a divorce, right? And 100% of the people we know are going to pass away. So I think it's noble work that you do, man. That's why I am so pumped that we had a chance to connect and do some work together. But I wanted to, just to go back a smidge, because a lot of people that tune in are really just trying to understand how all this stuff works. Mm-hmm. Like like you've said it a couple of times, the power of attorneys and the living trust and the living will and the trust and so on. Can you just elaborate a little bit on those items, just so people that don't have the experience know what we're talking about?
All right. So first thing I'll say is absolutely we can do that. If you want more information, come to our website. 90% of what we have is free. We have free guides, introduction to estate planning, free guides, difference between wills and trusts, free checklists. As you consider this, do X, Y, Z. Your situation is unique, just like everybody else's also. If somebody says you need this without actually asking you about your situation first, they are not somebody that you should be working with. Okay, so we'll start there. When most people talk about estate planning in the country, they think about having a will or a trust. Those are 2 mechanisms that help you transfer your assets, what you own, your possessions, in the event something were to happen to you. A will is not better than a trust. A trust is not better than a will. They do different things. So a will is public. It gets filed with the local jurisdiction where the individual dies, and it says, this is what I want to have happen to my stuff. A trust also says, this is what I want to have happen to my stuff, but it provides different mechanisms of privacy. So you don't have to file that with the state, and has different tax implications and different restrictions of how it's managed. So we've all heard the term like a trust fund, baby. That means that someone created a trust. There's multiple different types. You can read about them on the website, to have assets in a bucket, and I'm simplifying, for the benefit of another individual. And the trustee is the person who manages that trust to make sure that the assets are distributed the way they're supposed to do. And they can have them revocable, irrevocable, whatnot. So think of it this way. If you have anything, you have a shirt on your back, that's what a will does. If you have a lot of assets, then you start looking at trusts. So that's like the basic 101. Is
there a rule of thumb between using one or the other? In California, where I'm located in California, and our kind of the guideline that we've always been given is if you have more than $150,000 in assets, because in the state of California, there's such thing as called small probate, and it's very much more streamlined probate process here. Is that the same in most states, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we actually have state-specific probate 101 guides for every single state.
Yep.
And we don't say that there is a specific threshold or limit of when you should do this. It's more of a totality of your situation. So if you have one child and there is no potential of arguments among siblings, if you don't have a blended family, if you haven't been divorced, it's a very straightforward situation. You can pass $1 million through that, right? It's not a problem. But you should be working with an attorney. And what we say is if you have more than $250,000 or $500,000, depending on where you live, you should start considering some of those other mechanisms for deferred transfers or simplified transfer, or even private transfer. That's where trusts come in. But there's no like bright line. If you have this, then you have to do this.
Got it.
What you should, though, do is create your will when you're 18 for tomorrow and then update it, and it evolves with you as you get older. And we say update your will every April 16th or review it to see if there are any things that need to be updated. So have you had a major life event? Have you gotten married? Have you moved? Did you change jobs? Have you opened bank accounts? Did you buy a car? Did you sell a car? All the things that you might want to think about. Did you have a kid? Have your kids now aged over 18 so you don't need a guardianship designation for them? So that's the basis of a will and a trust. When we talk about advance directives, they mean different things in different places. In some states, an advance directive is a specific legal form that needs to be filled out. And in other places, it's a generality of a form. But what advance directives do is it allows other people to act on your behalf in the event that you're unable to act on your own behalf. So, Jamie, if you get hit by a bus and you're in a coma, you're not dead yet. So we haven't triggered, your will or your trust or any of those provisions that may come into play, but you're just not able to advocate. Who do you want making decisions for you? That's what power of attorney is. You can have it just for medical decisions. You can have it just for financial decisions. You can revoke those powers that you give, and those powers also end as soon as you pass away. So I'm really sorry, Jamie, you got hit by a bus. I was acting on your behalf. You died. I can no longer access your bank accounts if I had financial power of attorney because you are no longer alive. So I am no longer your representative, whoever you have as your trustee, or your estate executor, or the minister that gets designated by the court. That person can do that. So those are your main buckets, your advance directives, power of attorneys, your wills, your trusts. That's where we think a lot of people make mistakes. Now, on average, it takes 570 hours or more to administer an estate in the United States. Divorces are complicated. Administrating an estate is complicated. And the more divorces you have, the more family members, the more complications of assets and everything, the more complicated the situation is. So to draw an analogy, Jamie, you're coming over for dinner tonight. What are we cooking?
I think we want some steak tonight.
Okay, we're making steaks. We've got some ribeyes.
Yeah, perfect.
Tasty, right? We're going to open up a nice bottle of wine with it, maybe a beer or two, potatoes, baked potatoes. It's going to be great. So you come over, everything's on the counter. We start cooking, game's on, watch game, good to go. But if you come over to make steaks and I don't tell you that I'm not home, but you're supposed to be there, I don't tell you that the steaks are frozen in the freezer downstairs, but to find the freezer, you actually have to move boxes that I put in front of it, right? It's going to take us a lot longer to make dinner. And that's exactly what's happening to so many Americans. 10 to 12,000 Americans turn 65 every single day, right? This is a problem that is only going to get more complicated. And we're sending loved ones and family members on these scavenger hunts that if I just called you up and said, hey, I'm stuck in the office, I'm going to be 25 minutes late, here's the keypad to the garage, go inside, go downstairs, get the steaks, start defrosting them, That would be really easy instead of just standing around waiting for me to come over, right, to help out. And that's what we're trying to help people to do, is if you don't know what you need to know, come to us, find another company, go to you. I don't care. Just start and organize your information so your family members don't go on that scavenger hunt. And once you start organizing your information, you're going to identify, oh, I need to update my will. Oh, I should be evaluating this. Oh, I should be planning my funeral. Oh, I should be making these decisions now. So when it is the time to actually, engage these systems that you've put in place, your family members aren't left scrambling in a time of grief.
Love the analogy. Now I want steak, but more importantly, I want this is great because this is also so incredibly important post-divorce, because there are two things. One, either people that don't have any of these things in place and then they fail to put them in place, and now the beneficiaries aren't taken care of, and we have no idea, like the family members are going to come in. They don't know where any of the bodies are buried, so to speak. Right. Yeah. That's an appropriate analogy, I think. But like you have that challenge, but secondarily, what I've seen is we have these divorces that are finalized and things like beneficiary updates haven't been changed. And now if you potentially get hit by that proverbial beer truck that you're talking about, you don't want your ex-spouse to get your retirement account by default because they're the beneficiaries, right? So maybe talk a little bit about that. Like you've probably seen all kinds of crazy stuff in that realm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The example I like to give, and this is a story that is not unique. We were talking to an individual in Virginia. He was married, 2 kids, updated his will after a divorce. So his kids get 50% of his assets in the event something happens to him. But he didn't realize that the payable on death beneficiaries on his bank accounts, on his retirement account, on his insurance policy also had to be updated. He's like, no, the will takes care of everything. But the issue is that those are contractual relationships. So you are hiring your bank to manage and store your assets, and you have told them specifically what you want them to do. Unless you update those directions of what you want them to do, that contractual direction stays in place. So his ex-wife, if the event something happened to him, would have gotten all of his assets. And she can always decline and say, no, I want it to go to these other individuals. But legally speaking, they would have gone to her. And that might not be what he'd want anymore to happen. It sounds like he wanted them to go to his kids. So you really need to go through and find the unknowns. There was one individual, a widow in Maryland. We helped her save $403,000. Husband was in the hospital, non-responsive, not paying bills or just not paying bills. And they had been paying on a life insurance policy in the event something happened to either of them for decades. And when she went through the checklist, make sure you understand what your most important bills are to pay and how they're paid. Right? Do you know how your spouse, if you're not the one paying the bills, is actually paying them? Is it from your bank account? Are they sending checks monthly, weekly? Is it on auto pay? What happens if something happens to them? Can you get into their account? Will the account turn off so you don't have access? So she didn't know any of this. So she starts going through the list. And it turns out that the life insurance policy wasn't being paid, was 2 days away from terming out completely, like final term. She called him up. She got an extension to overnight the check, by 2 days, just in case the check was delayed. And he passed away, I think, a week or two after that. She got paid out shortly after that. She literally would have lost $403,000 because she didn't mail a premium. There's a lot that people don't realize, and you shouldn't realize it because this isn't what you do full time. And that's why companies like Buried in Work, that's why your company exists, that's why so many others are around, is because if you don't know the answer, you should be engaging a professional to help guide you. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah. I've heard so many of those stories, man. Like even my ex-wife, her childhood story it could have been so different had the family taken proper steps to get in this particular case, it was her father, estate plan in place. They had life insurance policy and these, all the documents ready for signature, and it was on his desk and kept postponing that signature. And it was just one of those things that's easy to push aside. And unfortunately, at 8 years old, my ex-wife lost her dad he got in a car accident and died on the side of the road.
Yeah.
When those documents and her mother, my ex-mother-in-law, had to work multiple jobs and work her tail off just to keep a roof over over the family's head because they didn't, they took the necessary steps, but they didn't see it to completion. And I've seen that time and time again.
My dad, he was a senior executive in the IRS. And to give you an idea of how into it he was, our bird's name was Arissa. So for those of you who don't know what Arissa is, it stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. So this is what manages and dictates the laws around
401k plans and
exactly retirement plans, health plans, private sector, whatnot. It's from the early 70s. So he was a pretty organized guy. If you asked him, "Hey, Dad, where's your policy for this?" Or, "Where's this bill?" You go, "Oh, it's in the office, filing cabinet, second drawer down, 3 files back." And this is a story that I hear all the time. My dad doesn't want to talk to me about this stuff because he's told me, you know where the safe is. You know where the file is. You know where the computer is. But telling somebody that you know where the computer is, to go back to the analogy, is the same thing as saying you know where the recipe is. Just because you know the recipe doesn't mean that you can actually cook it. It doesn't mean that you know how to follow it well. You have to get the instructions in place because what you think might be organized for other people isn't necessarily how they're going to perceive it to be.
And if you don't have the experience, dudes like us, we've been around the block for a little while. If something happens to a family member, you or I could probably step in, figure out which way is up, and communicate with the brokerage companies, or go to their plan sponsor for the 401k plan and their insurance company. We can figure that out. But so many people aren't. Yeah. This is not the life they live. They're tradespeople and they're teachers and government employees or whatever. This is not their wheelhouse. So it's just like anything else. It's going to take you probably 2 or 3 times as long to learn how to do this stuff as it would be for someone like you or I to come in, because we can usually pick it up and move forward pretty quickly. But
we started putting together these template bundles, and for example, we got one for $25, and it has, let me load it up. 1, 2, 3. It has 10 different templates in it. So an account closure request, a notification of passing, bank or financial institution notification of death, healthcare provider notification template, insurance company notification of death, affidavit of heirship, renunciation of executorship, release of claims form, safety deposit access request, family heirloom and keepsakes log. This is just one of our template bundles. Yeah.
Fire up the website. Fire up the website because I want to see if those that are we're able to share the video of this and are able to see the video. I think it's pretty cool to share.
This is in the shop template section, and you get all of these individual templates. Now, if you've never gone through this, you don't even know to ask about a safety deposit access box. Do you know to ask the individual before they pass away, do you have any hidden items in your house somewhere? I mean, my grandfather had literally money hidden in his walls. He was a product of the Depression. And what we've done is we've gone through, we're going to exit the shop here and go back to the main site. Give me 1 second. If you go information hubs and then checklists, we have a guide of what to do after someone dies, checklist, that has 56 specific steps. And you can see all of these checklists that we're scrolling through of what to do after somebody dies that you're not going to necessarily think of. So how do you obtain verification of death and pronouncement of death? How do you arrange for transfer of a body if you need to? How do you notify your family of friends? And then we start linking to resources on the website that can help you. How do you collect important documents? How are you arranging for care of pets? And just like we said that most people aren't necessarily experts in this space, we're not experts in all spaces. So for our pet section, if we jump up and go to our information hubs, so all information hubs, there's literally more than 50 of them now. You can go down to the pet legacy and care one. Literally, we get as detailed as Muslim end-of-life traditions, Jewish end-of-life traditions. We've got Christian end-of-life traditions. We've got a podcast directory. But if you go back to the pet legacy and care one, we didn't know all the answers, so we engaged local veterinarians to help us figure out what questions needed to be asked.
This is incredible.
We were in the hospital, or we were here, and somebody called us up and said, I'm in the hospital. I'm sitting in the waiting room outside where my mom is. She hit her head. I'm not calling about my mom. And there's people that are complaining that they keep getting either 2 or 4 rolls of toilet paper from Amazon on auto order every 2 or 4 weeks, and they can't stop it. What do they do? I don't know what they do. So we went out and we hired some people and we reached out to 100 of the largest companies in the country. And now if you want to shut down things from Amazon, here's the free database, again, this is all free, of how to reach out to Amazon if you need to shut an account. And then we said, well, we should take this a little bit farther. And we started an initiative called Ask 3 Questions. And these are the 3 specific questions that you should ask of every single account and policy that you have. If you can answer these questions, it just saves you and your loved ones a ton of time. And the reason why you should ask. And if you don't want to just ask and write the questions down, we have a free estate planning bundle, literally free right now, $0. And it'll give you that worksheet for Ask 3 Questions.
Love it.
But the thing is, on average, women are outliving men 5.8 years in this country. And if you look at traditional family values, older generation, it's more prevalent. It's not that women can't pay their bills. It's not that they're incapable. It's that they haven't, because the men have just done it more often. So we're about to have millions of women in this country in a situation that's just uncomfortable because they're figuring things out for the first time when they're older in life during a time of grief that should be easier. And what we're trying to do is make it so people don't have to go through things like my mom would have had to go through if I wasn't around. And when people reach out and say, I need something, we go out and we build it for them. Like someone said, hey, can you teach me? So we created a financial literacy for spouses course. It's 5 hours long, 5 different sessions, and we'll walk you through the basics of what you need to know. We actually just formed a nonprofit. Last week, we got approval for it. So we got the Maryland state side, and we're doing federal next, and we'll be helping with underserved communities. And we're just doing what we can to help out.
Yeah, this is so incredibly important too. Again, I've been doing this work for almost 20 years now. And I mean, obviously there's some, like digital estate planning options that are out there where you can go to websites and create your documents and everything else. But this is something I've never seen before.
Yeah, it's something special. It's not just me. There's a lot of people that are involved in various capacities. Can I show you something else, actually?
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite parts of the site. So I've got a quirky sense of humor. I get it from my dad, buried in work, like we talked about the pun. To give you an idea, he's in the hospital. He's probably 6 days away from dying. He knows a lot of the nurses because he's been in and out of there for a little while now. Nurse comes in. I'm just going to call her name Jamie. Jamie comes in and he goes, hey, Jamie, why is a giraffe's neck so long? And Jamie looked at Andy, what are you talking about? Like, I got to take your vitals. And without missing a beat, deadpan. So it's not going to reach his head. Just like ridiculousness, right? And it's that perspective that we're trying to bring to Buried in Work, is that it's a really serious topic, but you can have fun with it too. So we went out and we created the lighter side of Buried in Work. So there's products like mugs. My dog inherits everything. Don't tell me. My kids have no idea. Toe tag socks for funeral directors. We've got candles, like the Witty Burned Bridges candles for the people in your family that aren't getting along. The Witty Living Will one. This is great. Let me see what it says. A document for telling people what to do with you before you become a permanent exhibit. Like there's just so many silly things. World's okayest executor. It's a really serious topic, but we have to be having these conversations and we have to normalize them. And this is really what Buried in Work is about.
Love it, man. So I would say this is what I call the carte blanche segment of our show. And I know you shared a bunch about the work you're doing, the website, all the benefits that are available and so on. But anything that, any questions I should have asked or anything you want to share that would be important for our listeners to hear?
Yeah. Should have asked. I'll focus on one thing that we touched on but didn't really dive into. Our clear kits are our methodology of organizing all your information. So it's a comprehensive legacy and estate administration resource kit. Hurrah, it's an acronym. It's really detailed. And to the point where some people say it's too detailed. It comes on a USB as well, custom manufactured binders, high quality faux leather that zip closed so you don't lose anything. The USB are forms that you can fill out, professionally designed, that link back to our website. It's an ecosystem. So you can actually fill them out and your family members will appreciate it. But these are really thick. We wanted to make it a little bit easier for people. So we now have a light version of the kit, which is less expensive as well. And then we took that a step further and we created something that's called the Executor Summary Report. Now, every clear kit also includes the Executor Summary Report. But this is something that you should do as a first step. In 30 minutes, just about, you can provide a report to your family members. You don't have to give it to them, but have it that says, do you have a will? Yes, no. Where is the will? What's your residence history for unclaimed property searches? What's your marriage history? What's your citizenship status? Last will and testament, trust, advance directives. Do you have a bank account? Where are they? We'll give them your bank account information, but it'll tell them what banks you bank with so they don't have to go on that scavenger hunt. But in 30 minutes for $50, it's on sale right now. You can go in and create this, and trust me, your family members will be very happy you did. As the former deputy chief technologist for NASA said, which is not related to estate planning, but I trust his judgment if he can literally send, missions to Mars and Pluto, leave your heirs the gift of organization. And that's what's on the side of our box.
Yeah. It's amazing, man. Well, I appreciate all that insight and your, just your experience with all this stuff. It's incredible. I mean, I feel like I pound the table on this stuff all the time with clients and people that we've worked with over the years. But it's good to hear from somebody else who has all this experience and really see a fresh perspective on it. So appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for sharing.
Hey, Jamie, happy to be here. And what you guys are doing at Allegiant is absolutely fantastic as well. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So for listeners who wish to explore the resources and tools that are offered by Buried in Work, visit buriedinwork.com. If you're driving, don't worry. We're going to make sure the links are in the show notes and everything so you can get access to all this incredible information. And remember, if you're facing difficult decisions regarding estate planning or need just financial guidance overall pertaining to your divorce, Allegiant Divorce Solutions is here to assist. Visit allegiantds.com for more resources, and you can also book a complimentary and confidential conversation with myself or one of our team members on the website. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more empowering discussions. And until next time, we'll see you again.